Good to be with you today. We are moving steadily into Advent. This next Sunday is going to be the second Sunday of Advent. And our Advent theme this year is from generation to generation. And we have these devotional booklets for you to use. They're here at the church that you can pick one up. There's something for every day, and it runs through Epiphany. Also, starting this week, we start a new worship service tonight, Wednesday night at 6:15. It's a kind of a cross between a contemporary service and an emergent worship. We'll be showing videos of contemporary music, and then more of a conversant style in addressing the word that God has for us. And that word that God has for us this week, the second Sunday of Advent, comes from Luke, first chapter. And we read in there that God sends his messenger Gabriel to Galilee, to a town called Nazareth. And he visits Mary. Visits Mary to invite her to be a part of something much bigger than she is. God invites her into something very bold, something very risky. And all our calls, right, are risky. Now, the risk you and I face isn't necessarily going to be a stoning or a crucifixion, but they run risks all the same. And like Mary, we have fears. She had great fears. First thing Gabriel has to say is, do not be afraid. Again, one of the most quoted things in the Bible, right? God is telling us again and again, don't be afraid. Sometimes being afraid is important. It keeps us safe. Mary has a lot to fear. She does fear a stoning. She is a little girl in a very man's world, a man's grown-up world. She is a nobody, and she is a nothing. So everything that she has, everything who she is on the line. And yet she says yes. God invites all of us. God calls all of us to be a part of something bigger than us. God calls all of us to give birth to the kingdom of God where we are. And it always involves a risk. It always involves fear. So what is it that got Mary to trust enough to say yes? I don't know. Was it feeling the very presence of God in the midst there with Gabriel? Was that enough? What was the assurance that she received that made her say yes? I don't know. What does it take for you to say yes? How much trust do you need? I think God asks us to birth this kingdom in faith. Not to have all the answers beforehand. Not to know everything before we begin. And that's fearful. So this week, meditation. A couple things to think about. One is, what is it that God's calling you to do? What in God is shaking your world and making you fearful? And what will it take for you to say yes? Well, for generations to generations, hopefully this gives you some affirmation. People have said yes. When we read about all the prophets in the Old Testament and the Hebrew scriptures, all of them were fair, but they ultimately said yes. Here in this place, since 1856, people have been saying yes. People have found something within themselves to do something bold for God. What about you? What are you going to pass on to the next generation? What trust do you require? Well, we'll see you soon.